Hello and welcome to Boomer Live. Today we are here to talk about the Southern Derby. It was between the Royal Challengers Bangalore and the Chennai Super Kings. And finally, the defending champions are off the mark. They get their first points on the table. And all thanks to that 165 runs partnership between Shivam Dubey and Robin Uthappa. Who says Robin Uthappa was ever out of form? He looks in sublime touch. And also, the former RCB man had a point to prove against his former team. It was Shivam Dubey scored that brilliant knock again. And in reply, RCB couldn't chase it down. They fell short by a good amount of runs today. And now I have Nikhil and Sandipani to talk about it. Nikhil, coming to you first up. What did you make of that game? Because, they were 36 for 2. At the end of 10 overs, they were around 60, 62. From there on to accelerate to 217. Do you reckon RCB really missed a trick over there?
Firstly, well done from the first win to Chennai.
Yeah.
It was a long time coming for them. I do think they have a very flawed team with plenty of gapping holes, but they've tried to cover that well. I think today also with the start, I felt they were very hesitant in terms of what they wanted to do. But very glad that they got momentum from a guy who didn't hesitate to hit the big shots. So
Right.
once Shivam Dubey started that onslaught of hitting two sixes in an over, it's when RCB started to realize, okay, now maybe we'll have to do something else. And then they went to Maxwell, and then he got hit for three sixes, and then the tap was left open. So it's a very critical phase of the game because you don't see teams accelerating from 60 for 2 to 160, say, in the next 6 to 7 hours. It rarely happens. I think there was a phase when they scored 80 to 90 runs in just 5-6 overs. It will
Right.
not happen every day, but it just tells you that so much it is about just execution and mindset. That when you are taking your matchup confidently, when you're going after the bowling that you are very sure of, that yes, I can take them out, then it will come off. It is just about backing yourself, playing with that confidence, and then
Mm.
it worked out for today. And it was so good to see Shivam Dubey score runs because
Right.
now again he's a player. I'm sure I've discussed this in all the videos that I did pre-tournament, that he's here to hit sixes to spin.
Right.
Chennai do not have anybody else who hits sixes to spin like Shivam does. Raidu can do it,
Absolutely.
but he also has his own matchup. Jadeja doesn't do it. Dhoni doesn't do it now. So they needed Shivam Dubey to do that role, and boy, he's done that so well already. He's the highest scorer
Yeah.
for them, I think. So it just
Right.
speaks volumes about the kind of trust they showed in him, and it has
Right.
come off. And now, if Ruturaj can come off, then their batting will suddenly look a lot better because we're
Right.
yet to get a contribution from Moeen, from a Rayudu, from a Jadeja. From MS has already scored a 50,
Right.
but the
Right.
team will gel well. They needed
Right.
this win to just feel better about themselves.
Absolutely. Sandeep, coming to you, one thing we have discussed earlier on the show is also regarding Akash Deep and Siraj, and especially Siraj, who has had a great couple of years in the IPL, but he has looked off color, especially in this IPL. What do you reckon is happening with him? Because we have spoken that this guy needs confidence, but even today, he was given that opening 3 overs, but when he comes back in the death overs, he's not getting that mojo of that Siraj. He used to nail Yorkers perfectly. If you talk about last season, or even if you talk about 3 months ago, he used to be quite good with it. But all of a sudden, you're looking at a Siraj who looks to be balling those length balls on the slot, like how he used to ball in 2019, looking all of a sudden out of confidence. And another baller is Akash Deep as well. He's done well in patches, but more often than not, he has considered more than 11 and over. So is that a worrying sign for RCB going ahead?
Yes, for Siraj, I think it's just a phase. It will pass because he had been in good form heading into this IPL. And we always knew that Harshal Patel was going to be RCB's, like Harshal Patel was going to lead the pace attack, and it was not going to be Siraj for RCB. Uh, but with Harshal gone, I think Siraj will have to play a bigger role. He will have to nail those Yorkers in the death overs. I think he'll do it. It will come good in the later stages of the game. He just needs one good game where he can get that economical spell. Like he just needs to get into rhythm. As we saw in the case of Umesh Yadav, he just got into some good
Yes.
rhythm, and then it will like it will tilt for him. Like it will go upwards. Speaking about Akashdeep, I think today's pitch, it was very difficult to contain the batsmen once they got settled. Even we saw it in the case of like the Chennai bowlers. If the batsmen got themselves in, it was very
Yes.
difficult to contain them. So I won't blame Akashdeep because he went for 19 in his first 2 overs, and then he was hit for 39 in his last two.
Right.
So you can't, you can have these off days. Akashdeep bowls at a great pace, and he can swing the ball as we saw in the last game, and he can be very good in the middle overs for RCB. So they
Right.
will trust him to do that, what he did against MI, to do it more often. And speaking about his economy rate, I know he's on the higher side, but he is their fifth bowling option. Like
Right.
you won't
Right.
consider, you will consider Akashdeep as the fifth bowling option, so he can go for that runs as long as he is picking up wickets and he's confident about himself and his bowling.
Talking about bowling, today has been a day of batsmen. Of course, there was 400 plus runs scored on today's wicket, but there's been another bowler who picked up 4 wickets in today's track. It was Mahesh
Yes.
Tikshana. We've
Yes.
already known about him, how he can do. He has done well in the T20 World Cup, and coming into this IPL, he's already made a well-renowned name that he is a mystery spinner, someone who falls in the category of Narayan, Varun Chakravarti, etc. Nikhil, coming to you, what did you make of this lad, especially today? Because he could have, in the first match, he did not look good at all because Abhishek Sharma took him apart, and he just looked like he's not the one who has the best amount of mojo. But today he showed that he's got the carom balls, he's got his variations working in play, and even on a flat deck, he can make the ball spin and he can put the batsman in trouble, isn't it?
Yeah, firstly, I honestly don't know what to make of the pitches now. Because when Chennai batted for the first 10 overs, it didn't look like it's a surface where you could score 200. But they ended up scoring 200. So sometimes these things just happen. Because it plays an important part in the way how bowler thinks as well. I think in the first game, it was just very like now. Of course, he will be nervous playing his first game, and that those first game blues can happen. But I think
Right.
today getting that first wicket of Faf was massive for him and for Chennai as well because he's the guy who knows everything about them in terms of how they think, how they plan. So getting him out at long on, it's a place where Faf has got out before. So that was good planning, well executed. So with most of the spinners, we know it's that first wicket. It's that
Right.
first early wicket that you want in your first over that just
Right.
sets the tone for you. You just bowl very differently. You are far more confident. So I think that is what he lacked in the previous game. He just needed to create enough chances. Today, the scoreboard worked in
Yeah.
his favor. That because they had 200 on the board, they had to go after the new ball bowling, and I think he was used very well today. I think today
Right.
Chennai with the ball personally, not because Moeen Ali opened the bowling. I always thought they should always get Moeen to open if there is a lefty or even a righty because he bowls in a way he doesn't bowl that normal off spinner is like floating outside off stump. He's not that kind of a bowler. He's tight into the stumps at times. So that way they just looked much more part of it, and the batting part obviously helped. So I think he will be part of the side for long. I still think Dwayne Pretorius should be playing. One of
Right.
Jordan or Bravo needs to be probably maybe it looks like Jordan to me that Dwayne Pretorius should play. I think he's just in too good form to miss out. But
Right.
Mahesh taking wickets solidifies power play bowling because so
Absolutely.
far CSK had taken the least wickets in the power play, and today they picked
Right.
up three, two of them to him. So I think that is just great thing for him.
Yeah, just talking about that, Nikhil, coming to you again. Finally, you reckon they found their spinner because they were searching for one because Jadeja hasn't been, best with the ball except for today. He picked up 3 wickets, or else, he just didn't look apart at all throughout the tournament. Even Moeen Ali hasn't come to the party. So you reckon finally they found a spinner whom they can rely on. And as you know about Chennai Super Kings, they always want a spinner who they can absolutely rely on. Then they can play in their classic mode of play, isn't it?
I think I'll refer to what something that Fleming said before the game, which I heard on
Yeah.
TV. That this is also here where they are playing with a lot of new players, so they don't know how they will react under pressure and under different situations. So said they were trying to work out that where what is the best possible way to use these guys in their bowling setup. So I think today was the day where they found it a bit more easier because of the score on the board, and then once you get that early wicket, as I said, everything changes for most sides because CSK are a team that have always relied on new ball wickets from Deepak Jain. So in Mahesh Tikshina, if they can get somebody to take new ball wickets, I think Mukesh still has a lot of potential, but he has to catch. He cannot be dropping sitters like those. Hopefully that doesn't happen to him more often. But then that way you can play around because they have options. They have a right arm off spinner, they have a left arm spinner, then you have a Bravo, you have a Jordan. It just opens up so much more options, and that is something that Chennai always like. So
Right.
I think the wickets to Thikshina are very critical for him and Chennai both. Because once, as we see, the decks start to tire down, if he's confident enough, then you could potentially see Chennai bowling 6 overs of spin in the first
Right.
6 overs, as per
Right.
the matchups.
Absolutely. Now coming to you, Sandipani, we have a question on similar lanes about Chennai Super Kings, because today most of the fans are finally happy that their favorite team has gotten off the mark. So, will Chennai win? Probably give them momentum going ahead, because next match against the Gujarat Titans, they are coming off a loss, of course. And will this absolutely kickstart something for them?
It definitely might, because Chennai has been the most success, like barring Mumbai Indians, Chennai has been the most successful team in IPL. So they definitely know how to win games.
Right.
And given whatever team you give them, whatever circumstance you throw them under, they will come out of it eventually. Is what we have seen from Chennai Super Kings, that will to fight. So I think they can definitely change their momentum. But as Nikhil said, that Mahesh Thikshana's bowling will play a very important role. I think CSK's batting is completely stable right now, because once Rituraj comes into form, I think all the other players are clicking at one game or the other. So they have their batting team balanced. Also, I feel personally, I feel Dwayne Pretorius needs to come in for Chris Jordan. Jordan has not been in the best of forms, and he's not perfectly fit. I think he's been coming from an illness, coming on from an illness, and I don't
Right.
think that he has recovered completely, or he's feeling that well. Also, the confidence to go with Chaudhary instead of Jordan in the 17th over
Right.
showed that CSK are not trusting, like not exactly trusting. They are giving, they're trying to build Mukesh as a death over bowler, like
Yes.
so
Yes.
that two of his overs he can ball in the death. So today I think we just have to feel for Mukesh, because he dropped those two sitters, and I think it was just not his day. After
Yeah.
picking up Virat Kohli, if you say that you are having an off day, so that's
Yeah.
So,
something hard to see. Also, Jadeja
Yeah.
was expected to perform today. He has always been good with the ball against RCB. Also, some of his wickets, you might argue that were like he picked up the last two wickets. It was just more of batsmen's and fielders' wickets than the bowlers.
Right. You know, you talk about Mukesh Chaudhary, he's been getting out the big fishes quite often. Talk about Mayank Agarwal, Kane Williamson, and now Virat Kohli. So I reckon he's got the knack, like we talk about Shardul Thakur. Maybe this lad has got that knack of picking out the big fishes. So Chennai Super
yeah.
Kings can well and good deploy him against probably Shubman Gill. Nikhil, as we speak about momentum, now Chennai are going to be playing the next match in another 5 days. And when you get on a winning roll, you would want matches to be played in 2 days, 3 days gap. How big a factor can it be now having a match in 5 days time to break the momentum, or can it break the momentum, or can it absolutely give them a space where they can actually rethink and also rejuvenate and come back even stronger? What do you reckon about that?
So definitely, see, it can definitely work both ways. Sometimes you want to keep playing games and continue it. Sometimes when you won a one game after a span of 4 games, it could possibly give you time to relax a bit. That okay, understand that there are still areas where you should have done better that you didn't, and you could use that time potentially to get better and fine tune those skills, have some good discussions. Something that Sandipani rightly pointed out. The point to give Mukesh that over told you that they are looking at Mukesh as a long-term investment and not somebody that they'll replace even if he has two bad games, because they
Right.
know that somewhere down the line, if Mukesh has to bowl in the death overs, he has to be ready for it. And when will he be ready for it? If he's given enough time learning on the go, something that I think Tony has always stressed on, that whenever he felt that the game was possibly in their favor, he would give an over to a guy who he wanted to groom for the next game. So I think that philosophy is continuing. So hopefully this win doesn't, uh, obviously it's not going to make them complacent, but it just gives you the camp a slightly relaxed feeling that okay, you don't have to press the panic button, but you find out good areas to work on. So I'm sure they are too experienced to fall into any sense of false security,
Right.
and they'll probably look to plan better and get better at what they are trying to execute in the games.
Right. Now, Sandeep, coming to you, talk about RCB as well. How big a factor was Harshal Patel not being there in RCB's team? Because you know that he controls the middle overs, and that's one of the reasons why the fifth bowler conundrum came into play today, because they had to use Shahbaz and also Maxwell, where they had to fill in overs and possibly finish that quota of those 4 overs. Now we do not know when will he be back, and RCB will be playing the next game against Delhi Capitals on the 16th. So you reckon him not being there for a longer period of time can actually derail the campaign of RCB as well?
Not exactly derail, but they will definitely miss Harshal Patel. He was the Purple Cap winner in the last season. You have to miss the leading wicket taker of a tournament.
Yeah.
And he was also in good form. It's not just that, he was also in good form this season as well. He was bowling those slower Yorkers and the slower delivery. He was mixing up his variation in pace perfectly, brilliantly. So they are going to miss him. I think he'll be back in another couple of games. I wish at least that he'll be back in another couple of games. Uh, Till then, I think Maxwell can bowl in the power plays, because Maxwell was bowling in the power plays for Punjab Kings. He can bowl those 2 overs in the power plays, depending on the matchups. Definitely, he can bowl those 2 to 3 overs in the power play, and then Shahbaz Ahmed can come in the middle overs and complete the quota of the fifth bowling option. I think
Right.
that's the way to go for RCB till the time Herschel arrives. Also, Hazelwood coming in and bowling, like Hazelwood looks really like he was the most sorted bowler in the RCB camp today.
Right. Nikhil, coming to you, were you a little taken aback that Hasaranga was not allowed to bowl the quota of 4 overs? And that's where Maxwell came in and bowled that over, and where he went for 2 to 3 sixes by Robin Uthappa as well. Now, going ahead, do you reckon that they should be using Hasaranga in a more utilizing position where he can bowl through the middle overs, probably come into the attack, even in the power play, probably in the last over power play, and control things from there on? Because Hasaranga can bowl in all three phases of the game. And that's why he's been so successful for Sri Lankan cricket team as well. And what did you make of the decision of just giving him 3 overs today?
I think they wanted to make up for Harshal's overs at the death, which is why I felt that they felt that after him, Vanidu's form is good and we can use him in the death overs. I genuinely felt that it was a ploy from Faf that how KKR used spinners against Chennai at the end overs. They wanted to use Vanidu Asaranga in the death overs
Right.
against Chennai's batsmen, because there are 2, 3 guys there who don't hit leg spin that well in the end overs. But what really backfired on them was the other bowlers did not create enough chances to take wickets in that phase when both Uthappa and Shivam were going after the bowling. And they were all clean hits. So it's not something that they batted poorly or they were slogging. So they were all really very good shots. So I think you can say the plan backfired, but and I think it can happen. I don't think any one of us saw that Chennai going from 60 for 2 to 160 for 2 by the end of 15th or the 16th over. So uh,
Right.
the assault really caught them off guard, and then they didn't have enough time to come back, because you saw then all strike bowlers were brought back one by one. That okay, let's try and get wickets now, because the spinners are not able to get those wickets. So I think that's one place where Chennai won the battle tactically, that they didn't allow spinners to settle. And we saw
Right.
the same thing from RCB as well. The
Right.
Suresh Prabhudesai, Shahbaz Ahmed, they also came in, and they never really allowed Chennai's bowlers as well to settle down. So uh, I think they tried to cover up for Harshal not being there. And I think the next game that they play is against Delhi. So that's when they will need more new ball wickets from Josh, because Delhi is again very top heavy. You take down 2 of their top 4 early, then it could be very good. But if you don't take that, then Delhi could also really punish you. So I think next game will be very critical for RCB to see how they react to a loss,
Right.
because barring that, Chennai were very generous with their catching, because had DK been taken early, this could have been a massive loss,
Yeah.
probably a 70-80 run loss. Who knows? So that is something that they'll be thankful of, that yes, and DK coming good is also a positive for them, that even from their situation, you never felt that they were out of it, because
Yeah.
Chennai's bowling was such. So in that sense, they'll know that they have the resources. It's just about finding a replacement. But I don't think they have a replacement for Harshal Patel. So
Yeah.
something for them to think of while Siraj takes time to get back to the.
Right. I'll put another question as you to you as well, because we've seen teams chasing 200 more often than not fail, and the success rate of teams defending 200 or about 200 is a great success rate. Barring that game against LSG versus CSK, more often than, or the Punjab game, but 210, 215 is a kind of a score what you see more teams defended, right? And is it because of the approach? The more often than the moment you see a team post too close to 220, the teams chasing it takes an approach where they say, let's go for health for leather from ball one, rather than calculating the chase. You reckon that's why they've been losing wickets up front already, 3 to 2 wickets, and then you fall out of the chase?
So see, of course, when you are going to chase 200, there will be pressure on the batters to come off. And at times, what also matters is the bowling depth of the opposition. which is why we saw Lucknow chase down the score against Chennai because they knew Chennai do not have a fifth or sixth bowling option, good fifth, sixth bowling option. So in that way, we were able to plan well. I think it's only in this IPL where we see so many teams that do not have a sixth or fifth or a sixth bowler. But which is why we may also see totals being chased down even later in the tournament if we get to those roads. But teams fail because the bowling side knows that the batters have to keep going. Just like today, it makes the job of the part timer also easy if you get new ball wickets. So I
Right.
think a lot rely on the power play. If the chasing side is getting off to a 50-60 kind of a start, then it's a completely different ball game. And I think that's one thing that we can definitely talk about is Bangalore's power play batting hasn't been ideal. I don't
Right.
think they've crossed 50 in even a single game in this particular edition of the tournament. So
Right.
uh, I know they want a solid top order, but that solid top order cannot be too solid for them to not get
Right.
enough runs because they do have the firepower in the middle, but you need that quick start. You need a 45, 50 kind of start regularly, not a 30, 50, 30, 40 kind of a start.
Right.
It looks
Absolutely.
more like the SRH batting order, like
Right.
all the solidity at the top.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's where RCB should possibly rethink and possibly make Anuj Rawat or Faf du Plessis go start attacking probably. Then we might see a different RCB altogether from next game, and that's where they'll have to rethink their plans because they got good 4 days now to rethink and come back against Delhi. Talking about that, let's talk about some exciting part of today's game. That's about fantasy cricket. It's off the field
Yeah.
things where you get to play and where you get to make success as well. I have Nikhil and Sandeep want to talk about. I'll get to you, Nikhil, first up. How was your day
Yes.
out in fantasy field?
Today was a tricky day, tricky game because supposedly weaker side was taking a supposedly stronger side, and the reverse happened in terms of the result. So I played with two teams. My team one was a disaster because it didn't have Uttapa and Shivam both because I expected that was a team made for RCB to win. But my team two was good. Jadeja captain, Robbie vice captain, so that worked out perfectly fine for me. I got my money back, so yes, I'm happy.
Yeah, yeah, I would say it was a half wavy, half lemonade day for you then.
Kind of, yes, kind of,
Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah. Coming to you, Sandeepani, how was your day on the fantasy day out?
I had a good day.
Okay,
Just my vice captain was a bit off. I somehow predicted, like, I wanted Ruturaj Gaikwad to score, so I had him as my vice captain. Other than that, all the players came off good. I think I would have had top 5 out of 5 if it would have been shown. I had Dubey, I had Jadeja, I had Thikshana, I had Uthapa.
right. I mean, you can say that was a half lemonade day, or maybe I don't know.
Yeah,
If
maybe
you
a
had a
half
vice
limited. They
captain,
just the vice
yeah,
captain
a
did not
bold
go
move
well.
there. That's a bold move to keep your vice captain Ruturaj Gaikwad considering his
Yeah,
form. He just went by the patterns of the last couple of seasons for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, now talking about not even if you have such bad days, how do you come back and how do you really not involve such financial risk and how do you actually ace many good days? I have Nikhil to talk about the course he's taking with Mad About Sports on how do you construct and how do you play and win more often than not. Nikhil, handing over to you. Take a shot.
So yes, as you guys rightly heard, that this course is about how to gain profit, and I just told you how I made up for my loss with Team One by having an equally good or a better Team Two because I knew the game was tricky. I was not sure of the exact pattern that will happen in the game, which is why I played with multiple teams, and I joined different contests with those two teams so that even if I lost in one, I should get the money back from the second, and that is exactly what I happened. That's exactly what happened. So these are the tricks, trips, and hacks, if you want to call it, that I've tried to share in that course, which tells you that you need to think far more about the game in terms of where you are playing it, what is the platform, what is the combination, what are the contests you are going to join. Are you making a safety? Now, say the team that Sandipani made with Ruturaj Gaikwad as vice captain, if you make that team in a higher risk, higher reward kind of league, you'll get so much more in return. But you can't put that in a small league team and expect that you will clean sweep all leagues because you have taken too much of a risk. So that understanding will come when you spend enough time thinking about everything that you do. That what is the team? Why is this team like this? What could the possible alternate options? How to, if you want to take a risk on Faf and Virat, okay, you drop them in one team, make them in the other team, and invest with that team accordingly. So that if they come off, you are still in profit, and that is what the crux of the course is: how to ensure you're getting something back and you're not in a long-term loss. So that's what the course is about. Please check it up. People have already benefited. and I'm also sharing tips every day in terms of how you can figure a way around your own fantasy career, because it's a very good thing to do, but you have to be smart, responsible, and also invest very smartly.
Absolutely. Talking about investment, talking about financial risk, there is zero financial risk when it comes to Boomer 11. And it's one fantasy platform where you can play for free and you can get a lot of rewards. And so just remember, guys, just go make your teams right now. In for tomorrow's contest, tomorrow Mumbai is taking on Punjab. So make your team and you can, of course, change it after the toss and you can play it for free. Just sign up and you can get a lot of rewards as well, and we're doing a lot of giveaways as well. Talking about giveaways, talking about some updates, fantasy predictions, follow our Instagram page where I'll be keeping you updated with some exciting stuff. And when you talk about the YouTube channel, we're going to be having Nikhil, Sandipani, Jones, and many people joining us through the course of the IPL to analyze every match. So do not miss out on that as well. And we'll be bringing you some exciting stuff when it comes to post match as well. That is a
Yes.
surprise. So stay tuned for that. We'll keep you people also involved through the course of our journey. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining tonight. It was wonderful to talk to you and wonderful to analyze the match as well. And many Chennai
Yes.
fans will be very ecstatic today that finally they're off the mark. They now want to have five in a row, and they'll soon be getting the 2010 memories. Can they pull it off again? So
Yeah.
yeah, having
You
said
support
that,
with
we
that.
all yes, we've got Abhishek also saying CSK has won. So we know that CSK fans are really ecstatic, and let's hope they do a 2010. But being an RCB fan, I really do not want them to do it.
Go into a hiding right now.
Yes, I'm having a tough night, boys. So good
Yeah,
night.
okay.
Good night.